On today's episode of Where's Brian, we're working with a group of people that keeps you safe during a disaster. Even though they don't have lights and sirens, this group predicts the future to keep you safe. Do you know where I am today?
I'm Brian Phillips. On most days, I work in an office for the Ames City Manager. Since starting here, I've learned a lot about the different jobs city employees have. Many of them you might see every day. Others work behind the scenes to provide quality programs and exceptional service to the community. And that's why I'm here, to experience the different jobs the City of Ames has to offer. You never know where I'll go next.
The water utility provides drinking water to the community and cleans the city's wastewater. We've worked with this department before, but today we'll focus on a different role the people here fill: flood monitoring.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Brian. Good to see you. Welcome to the water plant.
Thanks. So I understand that the water department does river monitoring and flood modeling. What is the importance of that?
It's an important city information tool. We monitor the rivers, the rainfall, and things like that, and we're able to provide information to other city departments so they can prepare in case we have to close streets or let businesses know what might be evacuated.
Okay. And how many people do we have dedicated to this task?
Sure. It's the administration division of the Water and Pollution Control Department. So it's the 2 engineers, the environmental specialist, and then the director and assistant director are the primary people who are involved in this task. There's other people that can help out and step in a time of need.
And I understand there's locations around town that you have to go and monitor and check out?
Exactly. We have 3 USGS gauges that are always running, and there are several more scattered throughout Story County, Boone County, and up into Webster County a little bit that collect rainfall data. Some of them monitor stream gauges and river levels for us. So there's lots of information coming in that we use.
Okay. And so today I understand I'm going to be gathering some of this information?
Exactly. We're going to need your hand in helping us look at the river level, see how high it is, how we measure it manually, but then we'll also show you the technology side of it and what we actually do to flood model.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to go. I'll
Great.
follow you.
We're going to head up to the USGS gauge on Riverside Drive.
Okay,
so
great.
Follow me.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good. Nice to see you, Brian.
Good to see you. So we're here at Riverside Road, and this is one of the flood monitoring stations, I understand?
Yep. This is the United States Geological Survey stream gauge. Measures the stage of the Skunk River up here. We're just east of Ada Hayden, and so what we do here is we have a box that we've got above the Skunk River, and we drop a weight down, and we can check the stage of the river when our electronic monitoring of that stage is maybe not working correctly, or we have some questions about whether it is.
Okay.
So
how many sites like this do we have throughout Ames?
we have 3 USGS stations. Combined with our gauges, we have a total of 7 river stage gauges in the city of Ames, and we have a total of 10 rainfall gauges throughout the watershed. That help us measure rainfall and the river stage, as well as do our flood modeling back in the office.
Okay, so is it pretty typical to have to come out here and do this, or is there some automation to the process too?
There is a lot of automation. This is not that frequent that we come out and actually physically check the river stage. We have cellular modems that transmit the data to our office, so oftentimes we only come out if there's a question about the data itself.
Okay, so how does the concept of monitoring work? So we're sensing the height of the water. How does that translate into a flood model?
Yeah, the biggest thing when you're modeling for the flood model that we have is knowing what this stage level is, or the height of the water at a given time, because that's what tells you where there's going to be flooding, or if there's even going to be flooding.
Okay.
And so the need for good data is very important, and so that's what we're doing here.
Okay. All right, so what's the process here with this box?
Well, I'll open it up here. So as you can see here, we've got this weight attached to this wire here. There's a counter, a ticker that measures, it knows the distance of the weight down to the water, and it can tell you the height of the water as kind of a manual reading.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is, I'll let you do this, but we lift up this and you slowly reel it down to the water until you see the water kind of ripple, you know it's reached the surface.
Okay.
And then we'll take a reading.
All right. So crank this. Do you have to lift this
Lift
up?
that up, yep, and then
Okay.
slowly reel it down.
All right. We're getting closer.
Yep. You're getting very close now.
So we're just looking for a ripple.
Yep, once you get to the surface, then we'll take, and there's actually a ticker and then what kind of a measurement there that gives you in between
this
the
is a little bit more
totals.
precise.
Yep.
Not quite there. It's difficult to judge looking straight down.
Yep, you'll see it.
There we
There
go.
you go. So what do you got there?
So this, the big ticker says 3, and this more fine one says 32.
Yeah, so that'll be 3.32 feet.
Okay.
That is the stage of the Skunk River at this location.
So that's from the surface of the water down to the bottom of the water,
Yes.
basically.
Yep,
okay.
correct.
So as this is higher up, this this number gets higher.
Yep.
then? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So 3.30. That's what we were at.
Yep, and what we'll do is when we're back in the office, we can go check that to the reading we're actually getting.
Okay. So we'll crank this back up.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Now, you know, Ames has had some pretty substantial floods. Are there ever times when the water is up so high that we're not even able to get a normal reading?
Not typically, no. That would be a catastrophic flood,
Yeah.
and we don't see too many of those.
Okay.
We do see some major flooding, but as far as we've been concerned with the recent flooding, our gauges read accurately during those times.
Great. All right, so then we just close this back up?
Yep.
Okay.
The lock on, and that's it.
All right, so we'll head back to the office.
Sounds good.
Let's go this way.
All right.
Okay, so now that we've gotten our information from the gauge site, what do we do when we get back here to the office?
Well, the first thing we did, and first thing we'll do is check to make sure the reading we got at the USGS gauge there matches what we're seeing that they're sending to us electronically.
Okay.
And that's on their website. We checked that. Our reading at the site was very close to what we're reading, we're getting from their website. So we feel comfortable going ahead and running a model run here.
Okay.
So the first thing we do is collect the data, and we have 10 gauge locations for rainfall and river stage level data throughout the watershed. This computer here pulls it all in to our office we use cellular modems over the Verizon network there, and the data comes in from our gauges every half hour, every 15 minutes from the USGS gauges to their website. And we take that data and we take it and move it over to this computer where we run the model. Since the river levels are at normal levels right now, we want an interesting result for this show here today.
Okay.
We're going to run a model run that we did earlier in the year this spring when we had some flooding.
Okay.
So that's what we'll be doing today.
Okay, so what's the process here then?
So the first thing we need to do, and I've entered, before we came here today, I've entered much of the data for some of the other gauges throughout the watershed. But we're going to have you enter the data from the gauge we were at earlier today.
All right.
So Skunk North, we have a table here, an Excel spreadsheet with the data in it. And this has the stage gauge data there for every 15 minutes like we had discussed. So you're going to copy that and put it into the model directly.
Okay, right into here.
Yep. Okay, looks like it transferred right.
Okay.
And so normally we would go through every gauge we have and enter, if we have river stage data, we would enter that, and then also some of our gauges, we have rainfall gauges there. And so we would enter both of those if available. We have already did that, so we're going to have you go ahead and run the model right now. So
Okay.
if you go up to this little icon there,
Compute current run?
yep, compute current run, and it's running, and it's done. So you can close that window, and then what we'll do after we've run the model is go through the watershed kind of from the top to the bottom and make sure that it's running correctly.
Okay.
And we do that at the gauge locations that we have.
So we're doing the Skunk River then?
Yeah, so we can do the Skunk River, and we'll actually, for this, we'll actually just start at the Ada Hayden, at the Skunk North gauge, which is right here, and we'll just look at what the prediction is for that. So right-click on that, and go to View Results, and we'll open a graph here and see what we got.
Okay.
So as you can see on this graph, there's a couple of lines, a number of lines here. The ones you want to look at are the yellow ones, and what those tell us is the dotted line, the yellow line, is the actual observed stage at the river. So that is the data
this
that
one
you,
here.
yep,
Okay.
that is the data that you entered. And as a model run goes on, as an event goes on, we'll update that as we get more data from the different gauges.
Okay.
The hashed yellow line here is our prediction, and that's the one that we really want to make sure is matching the observed stage data that we're getting, and that's what we use to make a flood prediction for a crest at that location.
So that information is using the rainfall and the forecast and where water is up further in the watershed in order to develop that prediction?
Yep, we use, our model uses all the gauge data that we have available to us. And I mean, sometimes we even take other things into account. Occasionally we'll run scenarios where if we know maybe the National Weather Service is forecasting a certain amount of rainfall, we'll anticipate that and see what some scenarios would be in the model.
I see.
So we use it for a lot of different things. For making a prediction, what we'll have you do here is if you can go up to the peak there, you can see that's the crest according to our model. And you can see there it gives a reading stage of 17.73 feet.
Okay.
At,
so it's at 3:01 a.m.?
that's right.
So that's when it will crest and start to come
That's
back
what
in.
our model is forecasting at this time
Okay.
with the data available for the crest at the Skunk North gauge.
And you can do this for all the different sites?
Yep, any site that we have a gauge for that we run in our model, we can determine the crests at that point.
So we have two larger watersheds here in Ames, the Skunk River and Squaw Creek. How large are those watersheds? Where do they go?
As far as comparing to, I guess, some of the other watersheds in Iowa, our watershed is relatively small.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the reasons that we have kind of some flooding that happens so quickly. We have smaller basins, which, you know, maybe one day it's relatively dry, but we get a few days of rain in a row, and that ground gets saturated, and we can have flooding after a couple of days like that. And so that's one of the unique characteristics about our watershed and about our basins.
Okay. So what exactly is a watershed?
Yeah, so a watershed, and we have a map up here showing ours, but what a watershed is the entire land area that collects water over an area.
Okay.
And so you can see our watershed, all the water that comes through ends up coming through the Skunk River, passes under the Highway 30 bridge. So all of our water in our watershed ends up passing through there at some point.
Okay. Now, as we gather all this information for flood modeling, how can the public access this information?
Well, during an event, we make the information available through various means, through our public relations, through our website. We actually have developed a list of locations that we know are prone to flooding at different stage levels, and we make that available as well. There are certain locations in the city that we know flood at a certain height, and that information from past floods has been invaluable in making citizens aware of the risks.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, well, thank you very much for showing me this today. I'll get out of your way and let you get back to modeling.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Well, today we got to see how the water department does more than provide great tasting water. To learn more about flood prediction, visit the Flood Watch page on www.cityofames.org. And be sure to tune in for the next Where's Brian, because you'll never know where I'll go next.